a draw. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
whether Frank said those comments after that game on Saturday, or was it
I
after
think,
another game?
no, I think it was that game that he said it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he
right.
said it after that game because they fought back to then so they didn't actually
Yeah,
win. They
they didn't
actually
win. No.
they drew that game. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, so they
Yeah.
drew that game, and he was saying, "Oh, it's their best performance here." And I'm thinking, you let in two goals and then fought back to
Mm.
sort of claw back 1 point, and you're saying that's the best performance. So anyway, I just thought about that, and I thought, what is it trying to? Yeah,
Yeah, but what do you think? I mean, it's an interesting point you make because it's like what do we think as outsiders? What do we
yeah,
think that a man? How should a manager? We've already talked about managers being asked sort of difficult questions or even dumb questions sometimes
yeah,
about are you fearing for your job?
yeah,
Because they're not going to admit to that, so it's a silly question. But
yeah,
equally, Frank's obviously would have been pretty hyped up to get back from 2-0 down. At that point, you've lost 3 points, you've lost a point.
yeah,
So to come back against a team like Brighton, which they're not mugs, I think they'll do quite well again this season. They will. So I can imagine in many games, let's face it, when you're losing 1, 2, 3-0, if you come back, particularly later in the game, and get a draw, that point feels like
mm,
3 points, whether
yeah,
it's at
exactly.
home or away.
Yeah,
They would have, and it was an away game, a good side like Brighton. So to come back, I can understand him sort of saying, yeah, we've got this resilience. Our heads didn't go down. We maintained our confidence, our shape. But they know what they're expected to do. So I can really understand why someone like him, and
mm,
you get the feeling he lives, eats, and breathes football, which I guess most of the managers in any league do.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I can totally understand his elation, and therefore, what you're going to do, you're going to praise up your team. There is
mm,
enough opportunities, I suspect, when a manager is a bit crestfallen, a bit disappointed after a game, and he's asked questions, and he just wants to get back to the dressing room or whatever, having lost a game or given away a silly goal or whatever. There's a lot of
yeah,
opportunities where even then, I think good managers don't single out a player. They might say, well, we were weak in defence or we did this and that.
mm,
Often a manager will say, we gave away two stupid goals, but that's not personalising it to a particular player. So when you get the chance to sort of say this point feels like 3 points because
yeah,
we'd lost that game early on,
yeah,
then I can really see where he's coming from.
yeah.
Just if I just mention something slightly different there, and I don't want to interrupt your train
No,
of
that's
thought,
fine. No, that's fine.
but
Yeah,
we talk about managers, living, eating, breathing the game.
yeah.
Excuse me. And I just want to say, and I'm sure you agree, what a sad thing it was to hear that Matt Beard, the manager, I think
Oh,
a
yeah.
season or two ago, he killed himself, didn't he? Committed suicide by
Yeah,
all
yeah,
accounts.
yeah.
The weekend, I think, or just before the weekend. His last job in women's football was at Burnley, and I think he left there, I don't know, a couple of months ago. With Liverpool, going back 2, 3, 4 years, he won the WSL twice.
Mm,
So he really knew what he was doing, and he was a big advocate for the women's game going back a few years, by all accounts, even before it became a bit more fashionable or fashionable at all to
mm,
like it. And some of the things a lot of women, including England players, but women footballers have said about him, he was obviously a very, very popular man. And it just is sad because when I've seen I saw him when went to see a Brighton women's game a couple of years ago. Went to see a few games.
yeah.
Crawley, they play the
Yeah.
Crawley. They play their home games. Brighton women at Crawley, where I live. So I saw him, and when you've seen someone, of course, you see him on the television when he was manager at Liverpool fairly recently. it just strikes home. You think, wow, and he was only 47. What was it that kind of, well, who knows? We don't understand why there's a dangerous age group of men, I think between like 30 and 50 or 55, who are the biggest committers of suicide, if you like, than any other age group. And it's something that maybe needs more attention. One of his sons spoke very warmly of him. I think his brother said he would look after his son's family. And it just was very touching. And of course, the Liverpool players on Saturday against Everton, they all had armbands on for Matt Beard. So just a mention of him, and as all we can say is wishing his family well in this aftermath of a disaster for them. Very, very sad.
I know. Yeah, I saw because I didn't really know much about him. But then when I was watching the game, was it last night, one of Liverpool's games? There was a big picture of him. There was Matt Beard, and they were talking about it. But I didn't quite, because obviously they were talking about him in a manner that most people already are familiar with, and I wasn't. So I kind of, I didn't know. Well, I'm glad that you brought that out, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. Our thoughts are with the loved ones
Absolutely.
that left behind, because it's a terrible thing, suicide, isn't it? And it can happen to anybody, really.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody. It just takes one thing for you to get frustrated and think, well, you know what? Instead of causing people pain, I'm just gonna, quietly go out, which is not the solution to any, anybody thinking about, suicide. It's not the way to go. There are people that love you, and there are people that are going to be deeply, deeply hurt, and you're going to be really missed. So, just speaking out for, our fellow men that might be, fed up at the moment and just thinking, well, I don't want to be a burden on other people, and just talking about my own problems all the time, So, yeah. So,
And
yeah.
the problem is, of course, with this. I know we're branching off a bit, but
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing with this subject. The
No,
problem
it's
is
not.
that people like Gary Speed, of course. I think that was back in 2011, something like that. The Welsh footballer, the Welsh football manager at the time.